thank you so much for taking some time out today. I always love seeing you, which has been a while, and talking to you in your beautiful new space there.
Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you too.
And we're doing this episode on self-care because the election is next week. And we realize that we spend so much time on the podcast thinking critically about the wellness industry, but we wanted to devote an episode to actually offering best practices on how people take care of their body and their mind and everything in their lives. And the timing couldn't be more perfect because I see that in December, you have your next book coming out. I think I have all of them so far, so I'll add this to it. Clean Mind, Clean Body, a 28-day plan for physical, mental, and spiritual self-care. So big picture, why did you decide for this to be your next book?
Oh, well, I think one of the reasons why I just have loved you since I've met you is we always look at the problems and what's happening with the wellness industry and our lives at the same time. And what I've noticed, and I've had a hard time finding other people to talk with about this, is how fast the wellness industry has taken off and how kind of stressed out and disconnected we feel at the same time. And being in New York City for so long, you see, this isn't to make fun of everybody, but we all can kind of identify with run to a yoga class, get a green juice, go get a shiatsu session, go to the Tai Chi, do meditation. And it's stressful to even think about the collection of all those things. And, once you start to get involved in wellness, you learn that your body needs time to digest just like everything else. And of course, we know with food, you can't just go to the buffet and eat everything. But with wellness, sometimes we just throw everything at ourselves and get stressed out and frustrated when it doesn't work. So I wanted to share a little bit of my experience with that, but also simplifying, hopefully, giving people this once and for all view of here's all the beautiful ancient wisdoms. They're there. You can take your life to learn about them, but don't stress out about collecting them as a collection of things. More take care of yourself with them and go slow and give yourself time to enjoy the practices that they offer you.
Yeah. I remember when I left New York, you and Michael were even talking about it then, and it took you a few more years, but you did get out. I mean, now that you have moved out of the city, do you feel more plugged in? Do you feel less stressed out?
Yeah, I mean, right away, I think nature just has that way of doing it. Yeah, we always joked, with yoga, I always love thinking about yoga as nature and, thinking around being in New York City, looking out and seeing the cars go by and the hustle and bustle of the street. It's an extra challenge to decompress, and that's why we need it. But, so being in nature, it is like a luxury. It is kind of having that self-care all of the time. But, I think the struggle for me definitely, but for everybody is the phone, is the social media, is the, I need to discipline myself to get up and breathe and take care of myself and not just go into this habit of, well, I can scroll through and look for self-care practices all the time, or I can identify something I actually want to do and carve out this time for, essentially learning information with the phone, with the internet, being plugged in that way, and not just kind of expecting it to happen because you're outside in the woods.
It's a tough balance. I mean, my career is in social media and content, and recently my wife left all of her social media because she just felt so overwhelmed. She was having a real trouble striking that balance, and she does feel better now being off of it. But I mean, not all of us have that ability, especially if our careers are tied into it, which yours is in some level as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to give away everything here because I want people to buy your book, but you have a 4-week plan, and I would love just the big picture of each week and what your mindset or practice is. So we start with a mental cleanse.
Sure. Yeah. And for me, and we talk about this a lot just as friends, if your mind's not right, it doesn't matter what you do with your body. Everything is working together. And we know this when we read all of the science books and all of your work and things, we can understand it, but it's so easy to get superficial and go to the body first without thinking of your mindset. So the first week is really about organizing your relationship with social media, organizing your digital life, and deciding what that balance needs to be for you. It doesn't need to be an all or nothing, or maybe it does need to be for a little bit of time, but just having some awareness there is really healthy and important. And clearing your space. I get into a little bit of feng shui, and this book isn't to teach these ancient wisdoms necessarily in their detail, but just to show you don't need to be scared of cleaning your house and learning a little bit of what happens if you put something here, and sweeping the area near your front door, and just picking up your stuff, in a way where it's not a chore, and it can be part of your self-care practice. You can enjoy cleaning your space and taking care of whatever amount of space you have, as it is part of your own body and part of your own practice.
Well, you mentioned feng shui, but I've mentioned this before with Strala, teaching there and practicing there. I love the minimalism of the space. And even now I see a couple blankets behind you in that beautiful scene, but you've always had a really good ability to just keep everything clear and let people's, I guess, imaginations take them where they will, and let their practice dictate it rather than the imagery. I think that's really important. And the second week, you move on to a spiritual cleanse. So what is that for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, and thinking about this part and talking with people, actually it brought up a story that I had a hard time figuring out the through line for in the book, but I think it's important. It's actually a guy who used to come to the studio, and he went in and out with his own well-being practices, and he ended up passing away due to cancer complications. So there wasn't really this beautiful, he got healthy and felt better, or a green juice transformation story. But within his life, he had this beautiful moment in conversations with me and with friends where he wanted to have more spiritual connection in his own life. And it really kind of transcended religion for him. He wanted to hang out with people that made him feel good and spend time with people that, he would have interesting conversations with, and really have every moment out of life that he could. And I really admired that from him, because he was so close to death. And I thought that was a beautiful way to maybe bridge the subject about spirituality and making it less scary, and maybe more kind of non-denominational and outside of the sort of religious bubble that we get in with our kind of communities and culture and all of that you illustrate so well in all of your many works.
keep him busy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, these ideas in your head, you have to get them down on paper or screen. And I mean, I know that this next week is big for you because you've written cookbooks, and diet and cooking has been such a big part. So it's called Change the Way You Eat. What is that about?
Yeah. And, we're obviously so obsessed. Actually, we were just in town, and there was a funny Halloween display with all of the diet books, like the Atkins book and the South Beach. And it was these, skeletons, and it said, do not, buy these books if you want to live, in a way. And it was kind of a goof on, we're so susceptible to just the next diet without actually noticing how we feel. So, what I love about Ayurveda, for me, honestly, it was a mystery. And I thought that you had to learn how to fully become an Indian in order to do Ayurveda correctly when I was, 21. So, in my research of this section, I asked what I thought was a forbidden question to experts. I said, do you have to fully cook Indian food to do this properly? And most people said, no, you can take the principles of Ayurveda and respect your own great grandmother's tradition and live with their circadian rhythm of the day and learn about these spices, but you don't have to fully cook these other dishes. You can take this into what makes sense in your life and what foods work for you. And I thought, man, why don't we all do this? This is pretty cool. So that's really what the Ayurveda section is about, not becoming fully, going to this cooking school of Ayurveda, but bringing it really into your own life and your own family's culture.
That's an important point. One of the things with my science writing, and I think it is partly the future, is the individualized diet and protocols for the microbiome. Because as I've mentioned before, being a 20-year vegetarian and starting to eat meat again, and then all of a sudden my panic attacks went away.
Wow.
And that was something that I wouldn't have found in any book, but by experimenting, I was able to figure out for myself. And that's, again, something I've loved about your teaching, is that you always you prescribe that, one of I truly miss, I mean, the hardest part of the pandemic has been not moving with people, whether I was teaching or moving with people. And I always loved how the Strala classes had such a range of, you can call them levels of practice, but it was always, everyone felt welcome there. I wish we can open a social media space that felt like that.
That would be nice.
And the final one is for the fourth week is change the way you move.
Yeah, so this I think lends so much to trying to figure out in a laboratory way exactly what you mentioned, and how do you make yourself feel welcomed in your own body, and really looking at movement not just from your yoga practice or your fitness practice, but how do you walk across the room, and what are you doing with your body, and are you picking up the groceries in the easiest way possible, and really bringing in, whether you want to call it functional movement or efficiency. We have this ability to separate, I'm working out, I'm resting, I'm on the couch, and we can really move a lot easier in our bodies and be better to ourselves, and mentally, physically, whatever we're doing. And I think that can help us in our yoga practice as well. And that's what I'd always love to share with yoga is, if you can move well in your yoga, you can move well in your life. So it's not about necessarily nailing that pose, but it's about moving well through the whole thing so you can be happy after the class is over, no matter what happened. So that's really the goal, to really change your approach to movement so you're not stressed out when you're doing one thing and happy when you're doing something else.
Yeah. One of the funniest moments I had with Michael was after we used to practice next to each other often. And I just commented how I wish I moved more like him, how fluid and loose everything was. And he looked at me and he said, I wish I had more structure like you do.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed, I mean, obviously he's big into Tai Chi, and I've seen more of your videos focus on that. Has that become more of a way to move in your life?
Oh, 100%. And the funny thing, it took 10 years of being married to the guy for me to figure out that's the ideas that I had in my head about yoga were Tai Chi ideas. So I started, just picking up books that he had on the bottom of some shelf somewhere and thinking, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel about yoga. And then, it's not so different, the form of Tai Chi. And of course, there's different things to learn, but the principles can be the same. And so I love that, sort of make a good connection with yourself, have a good body position, and then you can do anything, have that breath body connection together. And so often in yoga or in fitness or in anything we're doing, we're kind of moving around disconnected and then wondering why, I moved the groceries over and I'm stressed out, or I pulled my shoulder, or I'm playing with Daisy. And if I'm not in a good body position, she's not going to be happy because my vibe is going to feel strange. And it's not mystical or magical. It's just that I'm in a funky, awkward position next to her or anybody else. So yeah, Tai Chi really just put a label and another practice onto, the thoughts rattling around up there for so long.
So we're 8 days out from an election, and it's obviously a stressful time. The election will not get decided next Tuesday, most likely. So it's going to be a stressful time for a while. And for the last thing I'd love to hear from you is just how you're moving through this. What is your practice, your daily rituals that's helping you to get through what I think is the most stressful time in our lives?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with that. And Mike and I talk about it a lot. We try to, we want to be informed every day and look at everything that's happening, but then we put the phones away at night and just, pick it back up in the morning, but at least for that time to put it down. And for me, and also for him, we need to have time on our own when we're doing our movement practice. And thankfully we're all together as a family, so we can switch on and off with our work tasks and our Daisy tasks and all of that. So in the morning, I take time for myself to do my meditation and yoga and whatever I want to do, go out for a walk and just have that hour. And in the afternoon, he takes his time. And without that, if I miss that in a day, I don't feel right. And I know if many days went by with that happening, something bad would probably happen to me in the inside. So yeah, taking that little bit of self-care luxury time instead of making myself kind of reminding to have those practices all the time makes all the time easier.